doing her taxes, and right before it's done, it asks you to confirm, and it says it recommends lowering her income to reduce her tax amount.
That's what it actually said? Is that TurboTax?
Yeah. Guess I should make sure I have the right microphone plugged in. Maybe not. Never fails right before we start. Gotta clear my throat all of a sudden 50 times. I feel like none of this should have moved, but of course it's been a couple weeks, so now readjust everything.
Why is mine so much louder than yours?
Welcome to the Desert Lair, episode 10. I'm Dustin, functional misanthrope. Dylan's here. He's a mostly functional nerd. So we took a couple weeks off. Pops was in town, so hung out with him instead of shooting this, since I didn't have any time off, so you hang out on Saturdays. This week we're talking about the FP from 2011, but first we'll do the news, and then I think I got a couple other things to talk about. Jumping in the news here, I guess they're doing a Matrix 5. Lawrence Fishburne said he was turned down for the Matrix Resurrections, so he might not be back for Matrix 5 either. There is kind of a canon reason. In the video game, the Matrix video game, his character died, and so they considered that canon. But here's the thing. Neo fucking died too, and they brought him back. So there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't have brought Lawrence Fishburne back. Realistically, I don't think it would have mattered anyway, because he could not have saved that movie. The most disappointing movie ever filmed.
I wouldn't go that far, but it was disappointing.
I would go that far. It was the most disappointing movie I have ever seen. The Wachowskis, their last few movies, so Ninja Assassin, 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. Cloud Atlas, 66% on Rotten Tomatoes, so still better, but not great. Jupiter Ascending, 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. And The Matrix Resurrections, 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. Here's my feeling. If you're going to make a Matrix 5 and you want to have a hope of it being good, you should not involve anyone with the name Wachowski, other than maybe to be a consultant.
At this point, where it'd be like, what would Matrix be without them, even if it was good or bad?
I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. After The Matrix Resurrections. The original Matrix is one of my favorite movies. The sequels are not necessarily my favorites, but I still like them quite a bit. The Animatrix was great. Matrix Resurrections, again, most disappointing movie I've ever seen. So, if you're going to have a Matrix 5, though, maybe get rid of the Wachowskis or have them with very minimal involvement and fucking bring back Lawrence Fishburne. Nintendo fan plans on waiting in line for Switch 2 at Nintendo New York for the next 2 months.
Huh?
He's going to wait in line for 2 months.
2 months.
2 months.
Is that line that bad or something? Or
to me, it's like a publicity stunt, I guess, but I don't even know if there are any kind of big streamer or YouTuber or anyone who... Here's the thing. Do you seriously not have anything better to do for 2 months? Is the Switch 2 that important to your life that you have to absolutely make sure that you get one day one, that you're going to wait in line for 2 months?
When Skyrim came out, I know people who bought like 3 different copies of the game. Like, oh, I have to wait a week because it's like I bought the Ultimate Edition with the collectibles. Well, I'm just going to buy it again to get the digital release so I can have it day one.
Not necessarily entertainment news related. Did you see they brought back dire wolves?
Dire wolf, like...
They used the DNA of the common gray wolf and gene editing with the domestic dog surrogates. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull and made healthy direwolf puppies. I mean, that's kind of cool, gene editing. Does that really count as a direwolf if you've gene edited another one into it?
I mean, they're going to start bringing back other stuff, like dinosaurs or something?
I think woolly mammoths are down the pipeline at some point in time. So there's an Ubisoft lawsuit, so an ongoing lawsuit regarding Ubisoft's shutdown of the online racing game, The Crew. Ubisoft is insisting that customers don't own the games they buy. Instead, they're purchasing a license to play those games. Ubisoft claims that legal print in The Crew, as well as on the packaging of physical copies, clearly state that Ubisoft can shut down the game within 30 days notice. From the perspective of a live service game, I understand this. This is always kind of how it's been. Any MMO or online game, they shut down a server. You could probably start up your own private server and like, are they going to pursue that? Probably not. At that point, if they don't have servers themselves, they don't care. But it's a question of like, they can't access the game anymore at all. From a live service perspective, I get that. But the problem is, it starts to have implications for all games, including single player games, right? This is where they're going. Oh, you buy a game on a digital platform. No, you don't own that game. You have a license to buy that game, which means that potentially sometime in the future, well, your license is expired. So now you have to pay us again. Like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm utterly dreading the day that Steam decides that that's their policy. Because, yeah, I have like over 300 games on Steam and I have to buy that shit again. I'm going to be infuriated.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, they haven't gone there yet, obviously, but that's where this is headed, right? It's clear. It's headed in that direction. Hopefully it will never get there. Maybe we'll get really lucky and Steam will step in and be the good guy and say, no, that's not how this works. You sell a game on our platform, they own that. You're not charging them again.
I like Steam because they did that with in-game advertising stuff. They're like, you try that, we won't have your game on our platform.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Again, just the implications are a little concerning. People are taking live chickens into screenings of the Minecraft movie now as chicken jockey meme gets out of hand. So I watched a TikTok video of this, and it's a bunch of these rowdy teenagers or college students, whatever. They're just out of control in a movie theater, and this scene comes up, and they're throwing confetti and a fucking live chicken around and stuff. It was like, man. So to transition from that, as part of its halfway to Halloween initiative, Shudder will screen Megan, so a movie we were going to talk about, did a little bit, for one night only engagements that include the use of Meta's Movie Mate technology, which allows audience members to interact with Megan herself through a chatbot, as well as second screen capabilities that will showcase exclusive content in real time using your cell phone during the movie. I guess this kind of brings up a discussion of, there are a couple different camps of people who go to see a movie. You have us normal folk, or most of us, who go to sit down and watch a movie on a big ass screen with nice theater quality audio and immerse yourself in the experience. And you have the other group of people who want to go with a group of friends to a movie and be rowdy and have a good time. Now, I think both of those are valid ways to watch a movie. The problem is you cannot mix these two things, right?
In what ways can we interact more with our phone when it's supposed to be experience about watching a movie, when I feel like people aren't even going to watch the movie anymore? This can be so engaged in using your phone that they're not going to even watch the movie.
This at least is a limited engagement, right? All this stuff that they've set up is for kind of like a one-out, a one-off type deal, and that's fine. But again, to me, that falls into the second category of experience, right? If you're doing this thing on your phone, like you said, you're not really paying attention to the movie, that's fine. If you're going with a group of friends to have fun and it's a group outing rather than immersing yourself in the movie, I get that. Like you said, that's perfectly fine. I don't see any issue with that. Other than you cannot mix those people in the same theater as people who are going to immerse themselves in a movie. Now, for the limited engagement one, that's not a problem, right? It's a movie that's already been out of theaters. It's a one-off thing. But for normal movies, I think we're at a point now where we need to start having separate screenings. So seriously, I mean, for a movie like, say, Star Wars or any of these like super campy cult following movies, or the Minecraft or video game movies, any of these movies that people are going to show up to and just lose their fucking minds, or, be there to have a good time, you need to have a separate, here's the fun screening. If you want to go and have a good time with your buddies and be with a rowdy audience, you go to that screening. And then the people who are trying to take their kids to see Minecraft, who don't want to see you jackasses getting up and screaming and being rowdy, can just enjoy the movie. There's two valid ways to enjoy the movie, and I think let's just start having separate screenings.
I agree, but at the same time, I think I can even barely remember the last time I went to the theater.
Well, you and I only go to the theater when Pops is in town to hang out together and watch a movie, right? That's really the only time. And frankly, I would rather just watch a movie at home because I have a nice home theater. Movies generally, for the most part, look better on my 77-inch OLED with a UHD Blu-ray, and my sound system is probably better than most theaters at this point.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Maybe I could make a case for IMAX type stuff, that's unique, or you don't like 3D movies, but if I were going to see a 3D movie, I have a 3D TV, but the bigger the screen, the better for 3D.
Someone has to wear glasses my entire life. Having to wear the 3D glasses, I pretty much got to sit in the front just to see, and it gives me a headache. So yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah, it doesn't really work for you. They'd have to design like a specialty pair that goes over your glasses. So in that regard, I get it. But again, for the most part, I would rather just watch a movie in my already good home theater. So it doesn't affect us that much, really. But can you imagine if we went to the theater with Pops and we're trying to watch some kind of movie and there's 20 people screaming and being rowdy? Like,
yeah, that would annoy
we're
the shit.
potentially going to get into a fight, right? Like, there's going to be a brawl in the theater because everyone's going to get pissed off. Listen. You have a brand new Star Wars movie that comes out and it's going to be filled with a bunch of nerds with lightsabers who are going out of control. That's cool, but let's have a separate screening for them. Let's have a separate screening for the people who want to watch the movie, whatever. Any news you saw that was interesting?
No, mostly streamer stuff again, but I hate bringing it up.
Streamer drama.
Yeah.
So I watched a couple things in the meantime. I finished watching Peaky Blinders. So that one's a period crime drama set in 1919 England. It looks pretty good. It was filmed well. It was entertaining the entire way through. I don't have a lot to say about it. They did a good job with it. I liked it. Tom Hardy plays in it. He steals the show every time he's on screen. He plays like this Jewish criminal gang leader. He's super entertaining. His character is pretty awesome, and he does a good job at that. I enjoyed it. Score-wise, I'll say 4 out of 5 for that one. 4 stars. It was good. I liked it. I also watched Monkey Man 2024. I did have that on the list as one potentially we would watch, but after watching it, I was like, I don't know that I have enough to say about it. So it's essentially an Indian John Wick. That's the best way to describe that movie. It doesn't exactly mimic that, but it has a lot of formula that it shares with John Wick. It does have social commentary in it. It's done mostly well. It doesn't feel like it's beating you over the head. I think it was a good premise, but to be honest, the execution just didn't do it for me. I was kind of bored. I didn't really enjoy a lot of the fight scenes, which that's the reason why you're watching that movie. I am in the minority on that opinion. I think it was generally pretty well received by critics, so everyone else seemed to like it. I didn't really care for it. Pops watched it with me. He liked it as well. I think you would probably like it too. Like I said, it's kind of like an Indian John Wick. So for me, I was kind of just like, can we fast forward this at this point? So score-wise for that one, 2.5 stars. I also watched To Sir with Love. This movie's from 1967. I'll read the description here. Mark Thackeray, an immigrant to Britain from British Guyana, has been unable to obtain an engineering position despite an 18-month job search. He accepts a teaching post for Class 12 at North Quay Secondary School in East End of London as an intern position despite having no teaching experience. He's a black teacher in 1967 London, and he's essentially teaching poor children with disciplinary issues. So you kind of know what to expect from this. Essentially, he reaches them through tough love and giving a shit. There's a fair amount of social and racial commentary. Again, he's a black teacher in 1967. This one was part of Columbia Classics Volume 3, so Sony, Columbia, whatever, they're releasing these collections of movies, old movies that they're restoring in 4K. 4K transfer on this one looks really good. It's kind of cool. They're restoring all these older movies. So when they go on sale or for a reasonable price, I try and pick up the whole collection. Score-wise for this movie, 4 out of 5. It was a good movie. I will say there were some parts where I had a little difficulty understanding what they were saying. Not necessarily because I couldn't understand them, but just, 1967 England lingo was maybe a little hard to understand in context, some of it. So,
When I was in England for 2 years, half the people there, I couldn't understand a single word they said. Their accent is so thick. I'm like, are we speaking the same language here? Like,
yeah, well, and obviously, like any place, they have a bunch of different dialects of the Queen's English, right? So, on top of them having a thick accent to us, they also have a lot of slang and other terms that we wouldn't normally use. So, English is not universal, I guess. The other movie I watched, this is another DC movie, Blue Beetle. I feel pretty much the same way about this movie as I did the other ones. The city lighting is pretty neat. They're in I assume what would be a city in Florida. It's a fictional city, but looks like a city in Florida to me. The city's all lit up with neon lights. It looks pretty cool, and they have this like 80s sci-fi synthesizer soundtrack that's pretty good. So I like that aspect of it. Everything else, again, this movie just seems like it's written for kids. That's kind of the level of the dialogue in this movie. So it's, as an adult, it's just tough to watch. I don't understand why we need to do this. We can make Marvel movies that are entertaining for adults and children. It's a movie for an adult, and you can take your children and everybody enjoys it. So I don't know why DC felt like they needed to make these superhero movies that were geared for children with dialogue that would essentially entertain and make a 12-year-old laugh and not entertain the adults that are taking them to see the movie. It's tough to watch. 2 out of 5 stars for that one. So the movie we're talking about this week, the FP from 2011. This movie is directed by the Trost brothers, but mostly I think this is a Jason Trost movie. He came up with the concept for the movie. I think he wrote the movie, and pretty much every movie after this he directed himself. So his brother was involved in it quite a bit, but he wrote it. It was his concept. The eye patch, he is actually blind. That's why he wears that eye patch. It's not just a movie prop.
oh, okay.
I did laugh because he talks about how over the years he's had to edit the IMDb page because a bunch of trolls will get in there and just write random shit on the trivia page that is completely untrue. So he's like, I have to monitor the pages because people will literally just make stuff up.
Yeah, I've seen that on Wikipedia a couple times where it's just like, this has nothing to do with this. Like, and then like an hour, like within a day, they'll switch it back.
I guess as an independent filmmaker, you have to monitor all that stuff yourself. So there was a short that they made before this movie in 2007. When he filmed this movie, he was 25. And obviously in 2007, I think he would have been 21. Budget for this movie, $45,000.
Oh, wow. That's really low.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Essentially, they're just a bunch of kids making a movie. So his dad is a special effects coordinator. His grandfather was an assistant director. His great-grandfather was a stuntman. His uncle was an actor and a director. So movies run in the family. The entire movie was filmed in Frazier Park, which on his dad's property. So the place they're filming in the movie is actually a real place in California. That's where his dad's property is at. Brandon, his brother, helped direct it, and he also did the cinematography. His sister did all the costume design. So that's why you can make this movie on a $45,000 budget, right? You know, all these people that helped you do it and probably worked for free. He said for his hair, he basically walked into a barber with a picture of Kurt Russell from Big Trouble in Little China and just said, I want this. So that's where his hair came from. He talks a lot about all the actors who are doing it are either doing it for free or a very small amount of money. So he's like, you have to monitor, like, how many beers did they have at lunch? You know, what other substances are they taking, right? These aren't professional actors. They're your buddies. So he's like, you got to pay attention to these kinds of things when you're filming a movie like this. Quick synopsis here. In a post-apocalyptic future, 2 rival gangs fight for control of Frazier Park by playing Beat Beat Revelation, a deadly version of Dance Dance Revolution. Visually, the movie looks pretty good, considering especially they made it with a $45,000 budget. He did talk about, because his dad's in special effects, so they took a lot of stuff that was laying around from his dad, plus they used all the junk on his dad's property. He said they made friends with local thrift stores, so like the thrift store had an area in the back where they just had a bunch of junk that they couldn't get rid of, so they're like, we'll give it to you, but you can't return it to us. They take the stuff from the dump. They try and sell it. They can't sell it. It goes to a back. He's like, then we acquired it, and then we take it back to the dump. So he's like, it's a massive cycle. He did say that in later movies, he basically uses all green screen for a few reasons. But one of the reasons is he's like, there is so much trash that is generated and left behind for making movies. Like, I just couldn't stand it, all this extra crap left around. So he's like, that's one of the reasons why he switched to a green screen in future movies. It was filmed on an old 1080p digital camera. So, I mean, on Blu-ray, this movie, it looks about as good as it's ever going to look. I don't think they're going to do anything more with this at this point. Again, they did a good job with what they had on the budget and with the camera they used, which is essentially barely a professional camera. This movie, it's a parody of white ghetto culture. They grew up in this small town, Fraser Park. He's like, it was an all-white town. He's like, everybody in this town was white, but somehow we had this white ghetto culture. And he's like, growing up in high school, this is what we experienced. And he's like, you're just thinking, what is wrong with everybody?
Pretty much in the first 5 minutes, the way each character talked, I was like, this is a flashback to high school. Like, that's how everyone talked when I was in high school.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's about our age, roughly. So, same thing. I would also say there's a little bit of gaming culture in there, too. Essentially, this is AAVE, so African American Vernacular. It's a modification of that. Again, I feel like there's a little bit of gaming culture in there, and obviously they play DDR. I think he said they played Saints Row, and I would assume they probably played some online games too. A lot of this culture spills over into online gaming. It reminds me of every e-thug ever that I played in any kind of online video game with.
Yeah.
The main antagonist, he could have rolled out of any like Counter-Strike, Data Feed, whatever, you know what I mean? It's kind of the most obnoxious thing on the planet to hear people talk like this. And especially coming from white people, it is just insufferable. You and I never talked like this. We were never part of this culture. And anyone who acted like this, just like, what is wrong with these people? What are you doing? That's why he made this movie, to parody that. There's criticisms about racism. They're like, oh, you're racist, and these people are using the N-word, and it's thinly veiled with some kind of acronym. I forget what the acronym is, but this movie is clearly a parody. The entire point is to say these people are idiots. It's absurd what they're doing. So because it's parodying that is not racist. At least I don't view it that way.
And even like each character's name is just stupid. Like
J-Tro, yeah. His is probably one of the more tame.
The antagonist is the worst. His name is just utterly ridiculous.
L-E.
Yeah, like.
Well, they call him that because the actor's name is Lee. They're all a play on their names and stuff, so it's funny. And he's like, a lot of these names kind of came from high school, which makes it even more funny. The only thing I did find kind of offensive, or that I feel like could be interpreted as offensive, the portrayal of the dad character. The entire movie, he's kind of this just asshole white trash piece of shit. And then we finally see him. He walks out and he's a cross-dresser. He's dressed in all these women's clothing and he's got the nipple hanging out. And it's framed as you're supposed to laugh at him. He's absurd and you hate this. That's a little bit transphobic. I don't think that's what they were going for, but you could interpret it that way.
Yeah.
You could interpret that as being a little offensive. I would say he came up with this movie when he was in high school and they filmed it when he was 25. Like, these are all young kids. It's easily forgivable. Like, I understand they probably didn't know better. For this particular movie, is it offensive? Yeah. I don't think that's what the intention was, but whatever. So in this movie, DDR is serious business.
Yeah. Of all the games you could have picked, you picked DDR as like the basis of determining who runs the gang territory type situation. It's like, huh?
But it's awesome though, because it's just so real and absurd. J-Tro, the protagonist, and B-Tro, his older brother, they're part of the 248 gang. And so they're competing in a DDR or Beat Revelation, BBR tournament with the 245 is the other gang. B-Tro dies during this tournament, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, I was like, did he have a heart attack? Like, that's what I thought, honestly. It's like, you have a heart attack in the middle of this?
Like, it's unclear what exactly happens. They're trying to portray this game as dangerous, but you're like, what?
So the man apparently had a heart attack, and somehow that equates to he lost. I was like, rather than doing a rematch because the man literally had a heart attack, you're like, nope, this is legitimate now.
Blood sport.
Yeah, like,
Well, I like how the game is also like 187. Like the game knows he's dead or whatever. It's like they have a heart monitor or something.
yeah, I don't know.
And they do like a boxing countdown, like after he falls down. It's like, is there even a point? He's clearly lost. I don't think we need to count him down to death.
Yeah, that whole scene was just ridiculous.
But the reason why it works, and essentially why the entire movie works, is because they play it all seriously. There's basically not one point in this movie where they're winking at you, right? They're not winking at the audience. Like, it's just played straight, the entire thing, and it's hilarious. It's completely bonkers, the entire movie. The antagonist, LWE, he is easily my favorite character in this movie. Just the way he talks, his mannerisms, he has the best heckling of anybody. He's completely awesome in this movie. I'm laughing every time he's on screen. At one point, Jason Tross said that the actor, Lee Valmacy, he was so embarrassed after playing the character, like he almost didn't speak to him again. Can you imagine as a normal person trying to act out this character?
I wonder sometimes with actors in general, like, this is the most over the top ridiculous part ever. It's just like, how do you keep it straight anymore without this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so ashamed.
I mean, he just fucking goes for it, and it works in this movie. And the other thing too, these are not professional actors in a movie studio. Like, you're hanging out with your buddies, and so you just give this performance. I don't know how anyone kept a straight face. During screenings of the movie, when people met him and stuff, they didn't even know he was in the movie because his personality is so different, they couldn't even tell.
It's just like, this person can't be real. This, like, no real person would act like this.
Except you and I know that they did because I've played video games with this guy. Like, I'm almost certain at some point during this movie, he got on as this character and jumped into a server to play a game because I'm pretty sure I played like a game with this guy.
Yeah, some of those people, when we used to play Counter-Strike, like, Jesus Christ.
They were this guy. They were this guy. Or something very closely equivalent. So his brother dies and he becomes a lumberjack, which also was on his dad's property. And he's like, so here's how this works. We wanted to film this stuff. And so my dad's like, sure, but you need to cut these trees down for me. So he's like, we're literally filming ourselves working because we...
That's awesome.
Yeah, like all this stuff that they're doing. He's like, yeah, my dad said we had to do this work for him. So we filmed us doing the work, and that was part of the movie too. Also, his buddy KCDC, the one Asian guy in this movie, so he comes to get him from lumberjacking because they need to bring him back. I like how everything he says, he emphasizes. J-Tro!
I noticed that. I was like, do you have to talk like every word you say like that?
The FP needs you! It's obnoxious, but it's hilarious at the same time. So that scene where he comes to get him and they're driving back and he gets out of the car or he's walking or whatever. So here's another part he was talking about. He said, as an actor in a small movie like this, all the cool cars and cars people are going to want you to drive are going to be a stick shift. So maybe learn how to drive a stick shift. The actor, Art Sue, he didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So Brandon Trost is like, yeah, the car almost rolled off that mountain. The other actor, who I think LWE, was in the back seat, laying down, hidden, so that he could try and tell Art Sue how to drive the stick shift. Like he's giving him directions as he's driving it. It's like, it still almost went off the mountain. I think Jason Trost said he had to stand in front of the car to like stop it from moving.
Oh my God.
He's like, in retrospect, maybe we shouldn't have filmed this on a mountain.
KCDC is like, we need you to come back. And the guy's like, well, why? And he's like, Because the ducks. I was just like, wait, back that up. I was like, what? So the reason you give of like, we can make this place better, like this place needs you. It's like, nope. The reason I'm going to give of all the things I could possibly say is the ducks. I literally died right there. I literally fucking died. I was like, what?
Well, and then he goes into an even more convoluted explanation at some point, right? He's like, so because LWE's dad died and left him the local liquor store, and now no one can drink, so the drunks have disappeared, so now there's no one to feed the ducks, and the ducks have all gone away. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, I was just like, we have to get the most utterly insane reason just to make this, like, the plot move forward in the movie. And the guy was just like, oh, like, you've convinced me. I'm willing to come back. I would look like you. You're fucking crazy. You told that to me. He's like, I'm going to go back to my lumberjack job. Thanks.
That's kind of part of the other thing, too, is he's went out to the normal, like, real world, being a lumberjack. And so he's almost kind of the straight man, and he comes back into all of this stuff. And so it's almost like he's looking at all these people like, what are you doing? It's almost all kind of foreign to him again. So KCDC brings him back. He meets Stacy, finds out she's dating his nemesis, LWE. Plot moves forward. He's at a party with Stacy. She asks him if she should call him Sextro, and he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he challenges LWE to a beat-off.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I'm like, there's so many other ways you could have said that.
It shows this montage. He's training for this beat-off. In part of the montage, LWE rolls by in his truck. So they have a swimming pool in the back of the truck. I don't know if you noticed that. So Jason Trost, in the commentary, he says, this is a real thing I experienced. So people will get a tarp, put it in the back of the truck, fill it up with water, and then you have a mobile swimming pool.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that before.
He's like, well, it's a real thing. They're driving by in their mobile swimming pool, and he throws that used condom at him, and it hits it. I'm like, oh!
Yeah, I was just like, no. Why? Why was that in the movie? Like,
it's like, oh, God. I also like he's training for the beat off, and KCDC is like on his back. How hard is that scene to film as you're trying to play DDR with a guy on your back?
yeah, I don't know. And then he actually shows the movie. He like falls over, so it's like makes it more awkward.
So he has the beat off match with, I don't even know the other guy's name, whatever ridiculous
Yeah, I forgot.
name they came up with for him. So he gets drugged. They take him back, and he's like trying to figure out what happened. And I think they told him, like, you kept trying to take off your clothes and pee on the TV or something, right? They spiked his drink. He has that scene with Stacy, and they're like walking through the thrift stores, which I think is one of the thrift stores where they bought all their junk, by the way. Mm-hmm. She tells him, you know, I either want to do something like maybe strip or become an astronaut. And you're like, what? She's digging through the sandbox for a tampon?
Yeah, I was just like, what?
Yeah, that scene was a little confusing. I was like, huh? Like, are they looking for a fresh one or a used one?
No idea.
I also like the boots that he's wearing.
So you need to be quick on your feet, and you literally have like the biggest clunkers I've ever seen. Like, why would you wear these?
I think he said that his dad like bartered those or got those from some kind of like mountain man, and so they were always just sitting around their house, and they thought it looked like a good prop, and so they used it. But he said it also had a practical effect because during the filming of this movie, he broke his ankle, and those giant boots acted like a cast.
I absolutely could see that because they're just so ridiculous. And the primary antagonist guy has shoes that don't have laces. I was like, how do the shoes stay on your feet and moving that fast? Like, they would come off instantly. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty insane. The costuming in this movie is awesome. I think his sister is actually in some kind of costume design or some kind of fashion designer or something. So this is what she does for a living, but she's like, I literally just had tons of stuff, and so we threw stuff together and made all these costumes, which, I mean, they look good, I think.
Yeah, and like typical like gangbanger style where like the antagonist dude has like he doesn't wear a shirt.
Everything he wears is a jumpsuit. Every outfit he has is a jumpsuit.
Yeah, it's just like what? And then of course he's got like the typical gold gorilla shit in his teeth. I'm just like, what?
I fucking love his character. Stacy, she talks about getting pregnant, and then she tells him until the coat hanger thing fix that. And I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I was just like, what? Like
I don't know. Maybe that's the other thing that could be construed as offensive in this movie, but it made me laugh. Sorry. So when they go to this beat off, he's challenging LWE. Casey DC fucking sings the national anthem.
yeah, like how he plays that hip upbeat music, and then he plays that, and every character is just like, what's going on? Like, why is he saying this?
So it's funny because Jason Trost is like, you know, this is how he actually felt in high school. Like, really, do we need to do this? And that's kind of how everybody in this, you can tell they're doing it because they feel like they have to, other than the antagonists who are like, what's going on? Let's go. Like he's heckling, right? He's calling people the homo F word. It's pretty hilarious. So he beats LWE, and then an even grosser moment, LWE gets hit with a used condom, except it kind of oozes out onto his face, and I was like, oh!
Yeah, I was like, that's so disgusting. There was that scene before that whole happened where he calls his friend in like the payphone.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, I don't understand a single word they said because they have like this like music over it. I was just like, dude, why they blast the music?
Well, he's got the neck brace thing too, so his speech is like, and the music's playing, and you're like, how does he understand what he's saying?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't understand a single word these two dudes said the entire scene. I was like, I need subtitles. Like, the whole part was just like, what? I was so confused.
So the funny thing is, when that character, his first lines in the movie, when they're challenging before his brother dies, he has speaking lines. And they're like, he killed it. He knocked it out of the park. But they're like, he got really nervous with it, and he didn't really want to do it, or it wasn't comfortable. So he's like, well, we just decided we'd put this neck brace on him, then he doesn't actually have to say lines. Like, he can literally just mumble. And then he's like, it worked even better, because then we had this scene where, like, every boombox in the world is stacked up behind him and is blaring music. And so he's just mumbling into the music.
That whole scene was just great.
He's like, getting a blowjob at the same time.
Yeah, that too was just like...
so much stuff going on. It's just like, what?
And then I like how for the first time ever, like actually acting like real gangbangers, where they're like, let's bring guns if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Like, true sore loser style. Like, after he beats him or whatever, and that whole scene happens, then they decide to draw guns.
The gunfight.
You have the guy who's practically just standing up with no cover and is blasting a shotgun. And the main characters are just hiding behind random stuff.
The one guy's behind a bulletproof toilet.
Yeah, I was just like, what is going on with this entire scene? Like,
oh, it's so awesome. Well, and the funny thing is, he shoots guns. He knows how to shoot guns. His father has guns. So he's like, we shoot guns, but he's like, I feel like most people have no idea how to fire a gun or shoot. And so the shootout scene, he's like, this is what I feel like most shootouts would actually look like, where everybody's blindly firing and no one can hit anything.
Almost like Revolutionary War era guns, where it's just like you try and actually aim at your target and you hit guy like 30 feet to the left or the right. It's just like, that's how shitty they are at aiming guns.
And I like how the scene ends because they stand up and just everyone's gone, like they've just walked out. But I think he said, he's like, people give me shit about that bulletproof toilet like years later. They have the car chase. Casey DC reaches over and clicks his seatbelt, and he's like, click it or ticket. And you're like, really? This is what's important right now? And then on top of that, it's like they're driving Miss Daisy, like they're not really driving that fast at all, and nothing's really happening. And you're like, was the seatbelt that important after these thugs?
It's like you're driving in the middle of the light in like, a small ass town. There's no one else on the road. Do you really need to be that cautious?
Like we're just casually cruising down the street and he's like, click it or ticket. And we're like, okay. This is kind of random out of nowhere, but one of the final fight scenes in this movie happens at a gas station, but they wanted to have it at the liquor store gas station where that LWE supposedly owned. He said, here's the problem. We had these moron Hollywood producers who, typical moron Hollywood producer, thought they were going to go to a small town and talk their way into getting us this venue. And he's like, I wasn't there, and I basically told them, like, just wait. I will go and talk to these people and get the venue. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. He's like, well, sure enough, the guy said no. So we had to find an alternate location to film this, which was that abandoned gas station. One of the interesting parts about this is, so he said, we're a bunch of kids. We have no budget. He's like, we're filming without a permit. So inevitably, the cops show up. And so he's like, when you're young 20s and everyone's a kid and the cops show up, he's like, you can tell them like, we're just a bunch of kids filming a movie. No big deal. And he's like, that works. He said, they're usually pretty cool about it. Whatever, they let us go. He said, when you get a little older, they don't really like that explanation anymore. And he said also, he's like, I'm really glad they didn't show up at the scene where the guy's pointing the gun because that could have been bad. It's an independent film and he's young and they have no budget. So, I mean, they're literally just firing off the hip on a lot of this stuff. And he said, there's some of this stuff that he's like, in a movie this size, you want to do something and that isn't always going to work. So you just have to use what you have that day and make it work. The fight scene that they had there, he's like, we rehearsed it a couple times. We did what we could, and, it mostly went off pretty well. But he's like, I kind of got popped during that scene because we didn't have all the time in the world to rehearse it, and stuff happens. So I think he said, he's like, I got more beat up during this movie than any other movie that we made. There were some visual effects things he talks about. He's like, you can have people do favors for you. Either they'll do it for free or they'll do it for the favor rate. He said, but the problem is all these people who are doing favors for you have actual real jobs that they have to do. So either the favor is going to take a really long time or, maybe it's not going to be done as well or whatever. But he's like, so I try not to use the favor card too often. I don't know. In the commentary track, there's a lot of stuff him talking about what it is like to make a small movie. In an interview, he said, when you get down to it, it's really not that unique. I always figured if you steal enough stuff from a lot of different things, it just becomes your own. And that's how this came about. Nobody would put that many things into a blender. Well, we did. Scores? I'm going to give this movie 4 out of 5. 4 stars. I think this movie accomplishes what it sets out to do. It's a parody. I think it's a funny parody. It plays the entire movie straight, and just the complete absurdity of it is perfect. So it's funny. I enjoyed it. I laughed.
I gave it a 3.5. I really thought about giving it a 4, but I was just like, there's certain things that, okay, you added it for comedy reasons, but how does this fit in the plot? That doesn't make sense to me. It was just like, of all things they could have chose, they choose DDR as the game. And it was just like, they could have chosen something else.
I don't know. I like the DDR aspect. I think it's pretty hilarious. It's so absurd watching them fucking dance as this gang war thing. Above average score for a movie that was this cheap to make by a guy who's 25 and his buddies. That's respectable. He did a fantastic job. This movie, I knew it had a sequel. I did not know it has 3 sequels.
It has 3 sequels?
It has 3 sequels. So the reason I had already seen this movie, I knew you hadn't seen this movie. Probably had never even heard of it.
No, I haven't.
But I was looking for the Blu-ray, and then I found there was a collection, or the collection Blu-ray, that has all 4 movies. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll watch the first one because I know it's good. I know I like it, and we can talk about it. So I'm going to watch the rest of them, and I guess I'll determine whether there's enough to talk about in those movies, and then see if we watch those or something different. I think that's all I got. Anything else?
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Later, man.
Yep. Devil May Cry anime. Mm-hmm. the creator of it added a character that's like the internet conspiracy theorist guy, and he's like shows like the model, like what it looks like. He's like, everyone's like, oh, where'd you get this inspiration? He literally shows a picture of Asmongold. He literally has a picture of Asmongold and it's like, this is what I based the character off of. And he's like, oh, this is honestly a compliment because he made my hairline, not look like I'm balding. Pretty much knocking the guard out and steal his uniform. Yeah. In some cases it works, but when you're like in fucking Japan and you're like a white bald guy,